Financial infidelity was present in both of my significant adult relationships. It's hidden debt, it's loans or investments you never agreed to, assets moved, title on properties that's not in your name. Financial coercion can look like, babe, stop working, I'll take care of you. Or it can look like a partner that significantly under-earns, refuses to work. A lot of my clients are supporting partners financially with addiction, and we don't talk about it. Financial infidelity is the slow erosion of trust, of intimacy, and oftentimes it's a kind that you don't notice until it's too late, until your body stops opening. If you are a superwoman with super traits, you are more vulnerable than you think. Your empathy has you forgiving quickly, making excuses. Your loyalty has you staying. Your responsibility has you carrying the consequences for poor financial decisions. And no one talks about how this affects their relationships, their sex, their intimacy. And the combination of having super traits makes you a phenomenal partner that also makes you an easy mark. So I do want to welcome Dave Oswald to the podcast of Forensic Restitution Accounting. He is my forensic investigative accountant and the third man that I have had on the podcast in 200 episodes. So this is an honor, Dave, for me and you. But no, I don't have men on.
Value.
I know, it's fine. You could, it's true. Feminist female, but I don't take men's opinions on women's issues lightly, but I really trust yours and I like the way that you do business and your approach. So I kind of wanted to go over two things today. I guess one, a little bit about my story and why I hired you. And the other is financial infidelity and financial control and how pervasive it is in so many relationships and people just don't know it. So lots to talk about today, but welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm Dr. Jordan Wiggins, naturopathic doctor, coercive control clinician, author, and dominatrix-trained pleasure strategist. I help high-achieving women with super traits understand the real reason their intimacy and pleasure is shut down, why they're over-functioning in relational systems that were never designed to meet them. Money and sex run on the same energetic current. And if the financial dynamic isn't mutual, the intimacy won't be either. Where there is money, distortion, not full truths being told, we will see the same mirrored in the sex and in the relationship. And this is exactly why using our super traits to work harder, communicate more, or being endlessly understanding that things haven't changed, our patterns aren't random. The super traits were ingrained into us. We were trained to overgive and keep trying harder. And that is why we see the same patterns repeating over and over. And this is why I created the super trait audit. If financial infidelity, if emotional labor, if overgiving, if inconsistent intimacy keeps happening in your relationships, it's not your fault. It's not you. It's because your super traits built you for survival, not for intimacy and connection. The audit is where we decode the emotional, erotic, and relational patterns that keep you over-functioning, shutting down, or blaming yourself. No shame, no blame, just clinical precision and the clarity that your body has been begging for. If you're done carrying the relationship and ready to finally understand what's been happening, head to the show notes. Let's do the audit, you and me, for 1 hour, and you will leave with more clarity than you have gotten from anything you have tried to do in the last year to fix this?
So this guy was a executive. He is an owner of two or three companies, doing very well for himself. Happily married. Well, married. I don't know if there's such a thing as happily married.
Yeah.
And then it went from there to, he hired a 35-year-old new secretary. One of them seduced the other one. Don't know which way around it went. He ended up getting divorced from his wife and moving in with this 35-year-old into their home. And lying in bed one night, she said to him, "Hey, listen, I've found this fantastic investment." Of course, it had to be in South Africa. Why South Africa?
I know. Why does South Africa get such a bad rap for all this stuff?
So anyway, he got him all the paperwork. It looked really good. He invested 10 million in it. He went away on a business trip for the weekend without her. He came back on the Friday, whatever it was, and the house had been cleaned. But by cleaned, I don't mean it had been gone over lightly. Every cup, every saucer had been put through the dishwasher. The carpets had been steam cleaned.
So you mean professionally cleaned?
Professionally.
Like intentionally
so that
scrubbed.
there was no trace of her whatsoever there. All her clothes were gone. All of her, they'd got onto his iCloud account. Every single picture of her had been deleted.
Dave,
do
they hire women to do this? Because I would be so good at it now. But I only want to do it to the sociopath men that have done it to women. Like I want to get it back, you know?
But I mean, this is what happened. And he employed us to start looking at it. And then we said, no, he's going to use somebody else. But I mean, this guy got taken literally for 10 million. I don't think he got any of it back.
Oh my God. Well.
So a good payday, but geez, can you imagine? Imagine everything that could go wrong there. She might not have been hired by the company. She might have tried to seduce him and he might have said no. He might never have invited her to go live with him.
No, I love that though.
He might have turned around and said, no, I'm not investing in that. So there were all these points that this could have gone horribly wrong. And they would have spent a fortune in getting this person into them. And yet it went right.
The payday, right? Like that. So, I mean, on one hand, it's fascinating. And I would like to think that you could scam the scammers, like the men that normally do it. Like, I'd love to do that, be a plant, and I'd get invited to move in. I know I would. But I don't know if the scammers would be the easy targets, right? It would be the people like me that are loving and trusting and open.
Again, there's differences about who gets scammed. So people like you, yes, easy marks. Because
are you looking at the target on my forehead?
Yeah, because you're loving, trusting, and everything else, you're an easy mark. If you back out of that and you're looking at narcissists, they're also relatively easy marks because they never think that anybody could possibly pull the wool over their eyes. Because they're too smart.
They're the smartest ones in the room.
They're the smartest ones in the room, girl. So,
okay.
When you look at that, it's like really easy to scam them.
I'm excited about this as a career opportunity for me, Dave, because what's that woman's commission? She better come out with at least $3 million on that.
I don't know what she'd have earned, but I would imagine it would have been decent.
Yeah, at least 30% commission.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's just crazy, though, that she got away with it. But, I mean, it was a professional job from start to finish, all set up.
That is fascinating. And you think it's a movie, but it's real life.
If you wrote it as a script for a movie, nobody would believe you. I mean, it would make a great CSI episode or,
yeah,
FBI
for
episode
sure,
or something like that, or Law and Order type episode. They in all of those programs, they want the baddie to be caught to show that you can't get away with it.
Yeah, but the reality of the situation is they do get away with it.
I just wish, stuff like SWAT and stuff like FBI and things like that, that there was something written into everybody's contract that you will not be on the show for more than 2 years because we're going to kill you at some point. Because that's what happens in real life.
Real life.
The SWAT guys go in and there's walls up dedicated to SWAT people because so many of them get killed. But in the movies, you never see them, you get into this huge firefight and the only people who end up dead are the bad boys, never the good guys.
I know. And see, I lived in this bubble, Dave. I lived in the bubble believing that there was justice and the bad guys got caught and love always won. Like that. Yes, I know. And now, I'm a little jaded. So is there anything that you want to let the listeners know about what you do? Because what even is forensic investigative accounting, or just explain that first, please.
Okay, so a forensics accountant is somebody who looks at data, normally a lot of data. So we'll look at bank statements, we'll look at emails, we'll look at spreadsheets, whatever we're able to get our hands on, to determine whether what we've been told is correct or not. So you might see a tax return which says, oh, I'm only earning $50,000, and you have a look at their bank statements, and every year, yes, from the company, they're only earning $50,000, but they're getting $250,000 in other deposits that are going into their account. So it's quite obvious that they're not earning $50,000. So even though they've shown you that they've got a T4 and they've shown you the CRA slips and stuff like that, it doesn't mean that that's what they're actually earning. And by following the money, you can actually start to understand what the financial picture is that you're really looking at. You can also, most of our job is looking at what's not there. So not what is.
What are they strategically hiding?
But what's not there. So for instance, let me give you an example. You have a person who's a contractor and he does basement. He finishes basements for people, for instance. Now, quite often what you'll get is that somebody will pay 50% in cash and 50% on an invoice. So the invoice side is declared to the CRA and the cash portion isn't. And, everybody walks away happy because the homeowner gets away with not paying the 13% HST, and the guy ends up with money in his back pocket. But what that means is that he's got to get rid of that money somehow. And the way he gets rid of that money is groceries, entertainment, booze, whatever it happens to be, a purchase of vehicles. As long as it's under $10,000, you can basically get away with sending cash out. And so we look for a person who's got a bank statement and a credit card, but there's none of those things on there, because that really does indicate to us that this guy is getting cash in. And then we can start following that trail through.
Which is why I hired you. And in thinking of this, preparing for this conversation and thinking about what I wanted to talk about, I realized, and I don't know if we've talked about this, but I have had financial infidelity, or, that's what I call it, because really it is this breach of trust and these false pretenses in order to get you there. But I've had it in both of my significant adult relationships. In my marriage, there was a home equity line of credit taken out without my knowledge for 30 grand. And that at the time, 30 grand was a lot of money to me. I was just starting my medical clinic and I had $200,000 of student debt. And then there was this whole push of his parents wanted to pay it back and everyone wanted me to sort of sweep it under the rug. And I didn't really have the language or the words to put to it, but it felt like such a breach of trust. And I was so hurt by that. And you also feel shame So you don't want to talk about it. And then we fast forward to my current situation. That's how you came into my life. And again, I'm feeling so ashamed, right? Because you think intelligent, educated, can earn my own money. I had house, car, all these things. And then you let a romantic partner like systematically take from you, essentially. So I find, and maybe this is different in your side of things, but I find most women don't even recognize financial abuse or financial infidelity until they're deep into the fallout of it. And then they're calling people like you, hey, Dave, help me. From a forensic standpoint, is there early signs that this is going on?
Okay, so let's just backtrack a little bit. When you look at your relationship, the first thing to look at is there too much month at the end of the month? And that's kind of normal for a lot of people. They're earning a salary, both parties are earning a salary, and at the end of the month, you're getting down to eating beans on toast because the money's run out until the next paycheck comes in, and then you start all over again. In those type of circumstances, it's highly unlikely that anybody will be able to hide money away. Yes, taking loans out against mortgages and stuff like that may occur, but on a day-to-day level, it's not going to happen. There's also cases where you believe that your partner is much better than what he is. So partners will tend to upplay what their skills are. And sometimes they're just not that good. I mean, I had one client who had her husband working for a bank in their treasury department, and she did some very basic back of a cigarette box calculations and worked out that he should be worth $2 million, and he should have been. I mean, he's a bright guy, but this guy was withdrawing from his RRSPs and withdrawing from his tax-free savings accounts. So paying the extra tax on it because he just couldn't manage his own finances. And yet a bank had hired him to manage other people's finances. So it's a crazy thing. So when you look at it, those are kind of two things that you've got to be careful of, is to understand that it's not worthwhile spending a lot of money if there's no money to be found, and to actually analyze what your partner is doing. As far as you being ashamed of what's happened to you, that's the worst thing that you should absolutely not be, is ashamed of being taken for a ride. The biggest problem with financial fraud is it's fraud. It's designed to be concealed. It's designed for you not to understand what is actually happening. And everything goes along swimmingly well until it doesn't. And, whether this be your personal life or it be a company, when there's fraud that occurs, a lot of people go, oh, how did I miss it? How did I miss all the warning signs? And the answer is actually quite easy, because you trust. And you have to have trust in your life in order to move on. You cannot not trust anything. And so for you to feel ashamed, or, that you're an intelligent woman and you never found this, is absolute bullshit. At the end of the day, you have been taken advantage of in a situation, and it's not your fault. It's the other
Then
party's fault that is taking on this role of, they've taken on the role of being the manipulator or being the narcissist, whatever they happen to be, and they're the ones who have affected your life and your outcome.
And it definitely feels good to hear you say that, because I've questioned a lot about myself, and it was trust, really, at the end of the day. And I always lived life with that view of, it's gonna be okay. And if it's not, I'll figure it out. And money you know, I spent 10 years growing a business and money was pouring in. So it's just like, I'll make more. It's always and I still have that belief. But that's the women that I work with, the women listening, and sometimes it won't necessarily get that bad as my situation, but there are these elements of financial control or elements of fraud in their relationships, but they don't even see it. And I see it happen in two ways. Some of my clients, the minority of my clients, they have no idea about the money and where it goes, and they can own multiple businesses with their husbands. They can have their own career, but all they know is that money's in the account every month and they do what they want. But their name might not be on investments. Their name isn't on title on their homes. And they're like, it's a setup to be a disaster if something goes wrong, but they don't even see it. So is there things that we should do to protect ourselves? And are women more likely to do this? Because since this has happened to me and it's been financially devastating, the more I'm seeing it with my clients. And then they're like, oh, I'm not on title of our home. Oh, my name isn't on our investments. I have no access to these accounts. Like, are women more likely to do that than men?
No, and I'll tell you the reason why. The party which is more likely to do that is the party who is earning the lower amount of money. So the party who is providing the bulk of the income into a partnership is generally the party that's going to have investments in their own name, a title of houses in their name, and stuff like that. And the party who is on the other side of it is the one who doesn't. Now, unfortunately, we live in a very paternalistic type environment, so the males historically have earned a lot more than females, which means that often we see females on the wrong side of this. But we see the same thing happening in gay marriages. We see the same thing happening where you've got a high-powered lady who's earning a lot more than her husband. She maybe has a stay-at-home husband and they end up getting divorced. And we see exactly the same trends between
behaviors. Okay, so it's more about the higher earner and not necessarily about gender.
Yeah, very much so.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you think, I worked hard for this money. Why must I share it with that other person? I've only loved them for 30 years. Why should I do that?
And that's navigating this whole thing. And I don't think we have honest conversations about money. And I don't think we have honest conversations about power either, or control, and how these tools can be used as elements of control.
You're quite right there. I mean, we don't have enough conversations about where we are financially in our marriages. We don't take interest in the financial situation, unfortunately. We're quite happy that money comes in at the end of the month and we have money to spend on groceries, to send our kids to school, whatever it happens to be. And we just go along with that until there isn't. We don't take interest that, oh, my husband's a builder and he built a condo building and, oh, guess what? He got paid 3 condos for building the building that were just transferred into a shell company that he had. We don't even look at that type of information. We just go, oh, my husband's a builder, he's building a condo building, and at the end of the month, money came into the account and we're fine for that month.
Yeah, we're not thinking big picture, especially when you expect things to work out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why you've been with a person for 10, 20 years. There's no reason to doubt that they've been honest about where the finances are.
I'm always going to doubt it now, Dave.
The problem is that you won't.
No, you're right. And as soon as I said that, I'm like, it's not me. to be skeptical. And
The thing is, when you get into a relationship, it's got to be a relationship built on trust. And until you reach that point where you can trust again after this type of scenario has happened, it's going to be very difficult to get into a long-term relationship with anyone. And so as you build up your trust with the person, so you'll be able to get back to that. But with trust comes the problems that, yes, hopefully you'll take the advice that you've had from your previous couple of episodes and keep a close control over what's happening with the finances, with the hubby's business, and you keep a modicum of control about what's actually going on. And you make sure that, when you're building a house, you're both on title and et cetera, things that you really do want. It will be based on trust again.
those things, I don't think people understand. I think there's a lot of misconceptions in public. Oh, even if you're common law, you have kids together, like unless you're married here, that if you're not on title, you don't have, what is it? Like you don't have claim to the property. You have to do a trust claim. It's not just automatic, but people think it's automatic.
Look, I mean, there are a lot of benefits to being married as far as financial security goes. It's definitely more beneficial than just living together. Even if if you have kids together, that does change the picture to a large extent. But it still doesn't give you the same amount of protection as a marriage certificate does.
Very true. It still seems to be set up that marriage is the way to protect yourself. And just, all around, it seems like society is set up that's
marriage, there's ANCs, there's all sorts of things. I mean, remember Paul McCartney getting married to a lady called Heather Mills many years ago. And she took him for half his fortune because they went into a marriage without an ANC. And at the time, it cost him, I've forgotten what it was, but it was like 500 million or something stupid for a 2-year marriage. So,
oh my goodness,
these things happen. I mean, it's, if you're going to get married, if you are the prime, if you do have a lot of assets in your own name, make sure that you have an ANC, which is, watertight, so that if things go wrong, and we all get married under the expectation that it's going to be happy ever after. But unfortunately, statistics tell us that at least 50% of marriages end in divorce. So it's not happy ever after. And, you've got to live with that. So if you're getting married, take the insurance policy.
Yes, that I had a marriage agreement, so that at least made that one easy to exit. Are there any lies, any narratives that you kind of see repeated in your work, like lies that are told to people?
Look, I mean, as far as financials go, the people who have the ability to control either company valuations or they have the ability to control investments, money coming in, cash coming in, those are the type of people who are able to create a narrative that will say, I'm not going to show this. And we often see bank accounts that aren't disclosed. Oh, how many bank accounts have you got? Oh, no, I've only got one other bank account. And they give us those bank account statements and away we go. But they won't tell us that they've got a Bitcoin account, or they won't tell us that they've got another investment account with another bank. I'll tell you an interesting little story that happened to us. We were in a divorce case many years ago now. It was when Bitcoin was trading at around about $2,000 a Bitcoin. So, kind of 10 years ago. And it was a nasty divorce between a husband and wife. And we'd managed to get access to a computer that he'd had. And we imaged the computer and we went through and looked for other accounts that he may have. and we saw that he had a Bitcoin account. We couldn't access it but we could see that he'd been going to Binance a lot. And so we knew that he had trading, or we strongly suspected he'd been trading in Bitcoin. So he came into a meeting at the lawyer's office, and we sat down and said to him, look, tell us about the Bitcoin account. And he said, oh, gee, I forgot about it. Sorry. And at the meeting...
They always forget when it's in their benefit.
At the meeting, he sat down with us and he helped his wife create a Bitcoin account while we were there. He opened up his wallet, showed us all his wallet with 40 Bitcoin in it, and transferred 20 Bitcoin to her, about $40,000. So she was over the moon that we'd found this and that she'd got this extra money. But after the meeting, she said, Dave, that was just far too damn easy.
Yeah.
You brought this up, and he immediately paid. Could you do a bit of background research and just see if there's anything more? So Bitcoin being an open ledger account, we went onto the open ledger and we found that the 40 Bitcoin had been transferred from a Bitcoin account which had 100 Bitcoin in it. We saw the 20 Bitcoin going into her account, and then the idiot had put the 20 Bitcoin back to his original wallet, which he didn't have to do. So he now had 80 Bitcoin in that. So we called him back in again, showed him the Bitcoin accounts, and she got another 30-odd Bitcoin that was paid to her. So she got 50 Bitcoin out of the 100 Bitcoin. And,
wow.
That was $100,000 extra for her, which was worth quite a bit of money to her.
It's the intuition.
This is a type of infidelity that occurs. This is the length to which people will go in order to hide stuff away.
And it's with a lot of my clients, these lies and these manipulations, then it spills over into other areas of their relationship. And then that's what they're coming to me about, is the relationship. But it's those little or big lies, hiding things, not being honest. Like, that's not intimacy. That's withholding and controlling, and it spills over into all areas of their relationship, like the sex, the communication, all the things. And until I'd been through what I've been through more than once, I was never even asking about financials as a part of the relationship system. And now that I'm working with more women that are kind of rebuilding after these breakups, after these divorces, and looking to set up new relationships, like, finances need to be a part of it. It needs to be a part of the conversation and a part of, some type of open communication or agreement from the beginning. Is there, like, if you're looking at my case, and I know at the beginning you said, like, oh, this is just some run-of-the-mill stuff that I see. Because bank statements and all this stuff, it tells a story, right? You're getting data, but you can kind of see how the relationship went and where mistakes were made. Is there a really shocking moment, or when you're looking at a case that you thought, like, wow, I'm surprised at this one?
Look, I think all of them are surprising. What surprises me is the amount of ingenuity that people have in the different ways. I mean, I've been investigating for 30 years now, or longer, and I've yet to. Every time we investigate, there's something new that comes up. I mean, we're involved in another divorce case at the moment, where the husband is in construction, actually in demolition, and he didn't like paying the receiver of revenue money. So he set up a bunch of shell companies, and he set up one shell company actually, and he'd invoice his company $20,000 a month for work done, which was never done. And it went into the shell company. The shell company then he took the money out of, and after 2 years, he shut it down. Why 2 years? Because it's unlikely that the CRA will investigate a company that is less than 2 years old. And so by shutting it down within the 2-year period, everything was good. Then you just never paid across the HST from the shell company. The shell company, to all extent and purposes, for the CRA purpose, was dormant. And he went away and he made a lot more money like that. When he decided to get divorced, instead of having one company doing this, he then set up 4 or 5 companies to do this, to make sure that he made no money in the company whatsoever. So a company that he was making $300,000 a year from, and he was putting his kids through private school and living in a nice house in Oakville and driving nice cars and everything else, and, going to shows and lavish entertainment and all of the rest, suddenly he's earning $60,000 a year. And
Isn't it funny how that's always what happens?
But the interesting part about this one was, when we asked, there were 2 partners in the company, and we asked both partners about these companies, and both of them pointed their fingers directly at one another and said, "So I know nothing about them." And, that was the fun part about the interview with those guys, is that neither of them knew who was doing the work, and neither of them could tell us what work had been done, but they'd paid $1 million to these companies. And you'd go, well, this is a little bit unbelievable, but hey, this is how fraud happens. And I mean, this is one of the warning signs that maybe you can look at in your relationship. If you see that your spouse or your live-in boyfriend or whatever it happens to be is doing things under the table and not declaring, then maybe you've got a problem. I mean, you see cash coming into the home without any receipts, and you start wondering, well, if he's doing that, what is his ethical values? Why is he not running it through the business properly? If you see him, if he comes home and he says, "Oh, I pulled the wool over my partner's eyes at work, and I got an extra $20,000 dividend and he didn't get it," it's not a great thing, believe it or not. I mean, you might think, wonderful, we've got 20,000 to spend. But at the end of the day, what it's doing is it's showing you what his ethical values are. And if he's willing to do that to a partner at work, then he's also going to be willing to do that to a partner at home. And this is a type. So if you're looking for warning signs, you're looking for things that you wonder about people. I mean, we've had people come up and give us photographs of boxes of cash that they found in the home, literally boxes of cash. And we've been asked to value how much is in there. And you go, how the hell do I do that? It's a box. And we use some fairly bright techniques to go about it. And we do provide a range of what we think is in the box. But, the question I've always had is, you knew that this money was coming in and that it was illegal money. Why did you think he was not going to do something to you when you got divorced?
Because they've always got a story about it. And they're believable.
Well, I mean, this is the other thing, is that we tend to believe what we want to believe. So when we get into these stories, it's so easy to turn a blind eye, or when something doesn't sound right, we just, okay, I'm not going to follow through. Maybe when you try and follow through with the conversation, he gets upset or she gets upset, and there's a lot of fighting and a lot of swearing, and
that's what I
eventually
find.
you turn around and you go, you know what? It doesn't sound right, but I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to follow through.
The abuse that happens when you do press on those things. So it's best to just be left alone. I can't believe even banks. And I have a friend who, her ex, they'd already been separated for over a year, and he wouldn't sign to get her off the mortgage, wouldn't pay her out. And then the mortgage was up for renewal. So they were using that as leverage, right? Like she wasn't going to sign to renew it. And, anyways, a couple months goes by, and then she realizes, oh, he hasn't been talking about the house, or he hasn't been pressing about that. She calls the bank. He'd renewed it without her consent, and they have lawyer letters like not consenting, whatever. So again, it's a form of fraud, but basically, like, the bank barely even took accountability for it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time, it's really difficult because if we look at electronic signatures and stuff like that, if I can get into your account, I can sign for you electronically.
So do you see more of that now that people are like,
Oh,
but I
look,
guess forging is easy too with a pen and
we see
paper.
lots of, I mean, there's reason why graphologists exist. And I mean, we work with a couple of really good ones. And it's because of that exact thing that people will will be fraudulent. I mean, if I can send you an email from anybody in the world that you want to get an email from, and I can say whatever you want in that email. Now, that's a problem because everybody thinks that when they've got an email, it's secure communication, but it's not, and it can be manipulated. And because it comes in an email, you think, okay, well, that's fine. And then you get a document, a PDF document saying, I, Jordan Wiggins, agree that the mortgage can be extended. And there's a Jordan Wiggins electronic signature at the bottom, which is just, typed in with
Yeah, anyone could do it on
some
DocuSign.
script font.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's there. And there's an email that says, hi, my dearest, here's a letter that you asked for the bank in order to renew our mortgage. And he goes along with that email. He goes along with the PDF that you've got with your signature on it. And he goes in and he says, look, sorry, my wife can't be here today, but here's a copy of her ID because he's got that. Here's a letter from her, and here's the email that I received it on. The bank looks at it and goes, yeah, okay, we'll do this.
Yeah, and then the bank has no culpability in that.
Oh, that's
Like, yeah, it's but
I
it
mean, a lot of people allow banks to get away with a little bit too much. But again, it's who's got the deed. Unfortunately, the law is an ass. It's not fair. So if you're going to go after a big bank for KYC or mortgage fraud or whatever, you better have some fairly deep pockets because you're going to be in for. You might be lucky and you might get away with it, or you might be unlucky and they might decide they're going to fight this one tooth and nail. And if they
yeah,
fight
and then they can. So
If they fight
that's
it tooth and nail, then you're into a court battle, and that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
and most people that have been defrauded don't have hundreds of thousands or been frauded, or how do I say that? Anyway,
Defrauded.
okay, wasn't sure if I said the right one, but yeah, then they're in a position from like a disadvantaged position from the beginning because they were set up from the beginning.
Yeah. No, so I mean, it's one of these things that we look at fairly carefully. In romance frauds, where we sometimes looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars that have gone missing, then yes, the banks do become a target because did the bank have the correct KYC, especially if the money's been paid in locally? You know, did they follow KYC protocols? And if not, then we can go after the bank.
Yeah, and just as your average everyday person, assuming that things go properly and there's procedures in place, and yeah, it's just you're, at least for me and my clients, we're never assuming that these things would happen. We're never assuming our partner would sign our name for us or be in a position where, oh my goodness, like now I'm on this mortgage. The bank did not do their due diligence. And now I have to decide, like, am I taking action with the police? Am I going up against a big bank? It's intimidating, and it just makes you want to.
But also remember that this might have been going on for years during your relationship. Hey, honey,
That's
I set up a mortgage. I signed for you because I couldn't get hold of you, or you couldn't get to the bank that day. Hope you don't mind. And everything's swimmingly good. And oh, I signed for this for you. We set up this account, put you on title with me, and away we go. And yeah, you couldn't get there, so I just did it all myself, you know. And you've tacitly accepted that during your relationship because everything's going well. Why would you
ex-
not? You know,
yeah, exactly. You're
you're not
trusting.
gonna set up a huge fight because somebody's done somebody's been nice to you. You're gonna set up a huge fight when somebody's been not nice to you. And
Yeah. Then
you
you look
know,
back and realize,
you,
oh,
you realize that you've been set up over a period of years.
you've been set up for years. Yeah. And I
That's
just,
that's the other thing that people don't realize is people don't get divorced overnight. So yes, there are occasions where you come in and you find something that's so horrendous that you can't live with it and you end up getting divorced immediately. But most divorces take place over time and over a significant amount of time. They're not something that is
yeah, you wake up one day, you go from happy and everything's good to the next day.
being divorced.
Right. Yeah.
No,
And it's
I mean,
usually one party has been thinking about it or planning for a long time.
and the other one's probably seen a lot of the signs for a long time. Lack of intimacy, whatever it happens to be, over a long period of time.
Yeah. And that's why I've included some of the financial questions and things in the work that I do, because I do find it to be very telling about the health of the relationship and the level of intimacy. Because money, it's an energy exchange like love and
Mm.
sex, really.
I mean, look, but you've got to accept that everybody is also different. I mean, I've got a brother who his wife has no idea about what's in the bank account. He gives her an allowance every month, real paternalistic type marriage. And they've just celebrated their 50th year of being married. So they can't
It works for
complain.
them.
It works for them. And I mean, if you were to ask her any questions about how much money's in the bank, she would say, I haven't got a clue. On the other hand, I mean, in my marriage, my wife has more access to the banks than I do. So she knows exactly what's going on. I don't know half the time.
Really? Is that like the shoemaker has the hole in his shoe or something like the
Yeah, something like
you're
that.
so focused on everybody else's accounts that you
Yeah,
don't wanna look at your own?
that's kind of the cobbler story.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I need to work on my analogies. I always get them close, but not exactly right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your wisdom and shedding some light. I hope those listening have some, number one, relief that if there are some things going on, to not feel shame about it. And I'm also hope that a few people listening are kind of like, huh, there there's some red flags or some things that might not that are just a little off with the way things are going financially. And if that's the case and anyone listening wants to contact you, how can they get a hold of you?
Two ways. Either send me an email, dave@forensicrestitution.com, or give me a phone call on 416-525-1510.
I like that that you pick up the phone. It's old school, but I like it. So many people do business via email, but I would way rather just chat for a second.
No, look, I mean, it's a stressful period that people are in, and you do need somebody to talk to on the end of the line. The worst thing that you can possibly do is feel shame or feel that you're stupid or anything like that because you've been taken for a ride. That is probably the absolute worst thing you can do. You are not responsible for what has happened. Your partner is responsible. Part of the way they get away with what they've done is because you feel shame and you do not act on it. And that is, to me, that's the sad part of this, is that so many people think, oh my God, I'm an idiot. How could this possibly have happened to me?
Yeah, and you feel so much shame you don't want to talk about it or
And they're not.
seek any type of justice. It's just like, oh, this is awful. Let's just move on. Let's just put it in the past and move on.
No, I mean, look, it's really, really difficult. And I have absolute empathy with what happens to people who end up on the wrong side of financial fraud, whether it be in their personal lives, whether it be in the companies that they own. It's never a nice place to be. And as I say, the worst thing you can do is think that you did something wrong. Because at the end of the day, it's not you. The other person is the manipulator. The other person is the person who's taken cash, moved it around, set up schemes, sometimes with your knowledge, sometimes without your knowledge. It's one of those things that you just have to realize that it's not your fault at the end of the day.
Not my fault. Have to repeat that one a few times over, but no, thank you. I appreciate you and your work and your time today.
Thanks very much.